If you're in the market for a new road race bike this summer, well, you can do little worse than look to Tour de France peloton for inspiration. This global race is a shop front window, a showcase for some of the biggest and most exciting bike brands in the business. And the best thing about the race and cycling in general is that you watch a bike be ridden to victory in Paris on a Sunday and then walk into your local bike shop on a Monday morning and buy the very same bike. Oftentimes you can buy a replica of the bike, the same frame, group set and wheels, if you can afford it. But thankfully, as we'll find out in this video, most of these bikes used by Tour de France are available at much wider and lower price points, so you can get the same frame essentially, but with different wheels and group sets to suit your budget. So in this video, I picked 10 of the most interesting, the most exciting, the most advanced, and quite possibly the fastest road race bikes as seen in the Tour de France. Now, I won't mention prices in the video because of different currencies, depending on where you're watching, and the prices may change because of COVID and other issues. Instead, I'll put prices down below in the description. I'll pick out some models that I think are really good options. And what's worth bearing in mind is that while I'm not talking about prices in detail, most of the bikes use the same technology from the cheapest to the most expensive. Oftentimes the same frame mold, so the same aerodynamic frame profiles, but different grade of carbon fiber. And then it's all about equipment, the different group sets and wheels and so on. And what that means is you can get a good slice of the performance from the top end models at a much lower price point, and you're not being shortchanged at all. Okay, let's dive in and take a look at 10 bikes from the Tour de France. We're starting the video naturally with the fastest bike in the Tour de France this year and last year, the Colnago V3RS, the bike ridden to victory in the last two outings of the Tour de France. So the V3RS is the Italian bike company's lightweight but also aero bike. It's a direction that lots of bike brands are going in, making a frame as aero but also lightweight and also stiff, a good all-rounder. They're good in the mountains, good on descents and good on flatter stages as well. This is a third generation model, now lighter and more aero and more advanced in many ways. But thankfully, if you're not ready for disc brakes, it's still available with rim brakes. One of the few bikes in this video available with a choice of braking systems depending on your preference. If you're weight weenie, you'll choose the rim brake version, but if you're not, the disc brake version offers all the benefits of disc brakes in a package that is still lightweight. The disc brake version I rode weighed 7.1 kilograms, so still pretty decently light and it won't hold you back on the climbs at all. It's also a very fast looking, modern looking road race bike compared to the company's more classic C64. And if the V3RS is out of your budget, the company offers the V3. So the same frame essentially, the same aero tube shaping, but a different grade of carbon fiber to bring the price point to a much lower level and using low level group sets and wheels to make it much more accessible if you can't quite stretch to the V3RS. So that is the Tour de France winning bike, the V3RS with disc brakes or rim brakes and available at 2 price points. The specialized Tarmac SL7 is a bike used to winning races. We see it cross the finish line first in many cases, and Mark Cavendish used his very well during the Tour de France. The Tarmac has always been a good all-round bike, an easy bike to recommend, lightweight, stiff and fast. And this latest generation, the 7th generation in the Tarmac, which first introduced at the turn of the century, is now more aero than ever before. In fact, it's so aero that they cancelled the Venge in the company's lineup because it's as aero as that dedicated aero bike. And you clearly see the aero influence on this bike with all tube profiles shaped to minimise drag. From the fork blades at the front to the seat tube in the middle and the drop rear stays at the back. And then at the front, we have a 2-piece internal cable routing stem and handlebar, which you get at the top end, but you also get at the lowest level on the most affordable comp model. And it's great to see Specialized offering a full internal cable routing option on their cheapest and most affordable model where some brands don't. Unlike the Colnago V3RS, the Tarmac SL7 is only available with disc brakes. There is no longer a rim brake option, but you do get wide tyre clearance, through axles and flat mount brakes. The performance of the Tarmac SL7 is very good. It's clearly a fast bike, very direct, very stiff and very responsive, and you can see my review of the comp version linked above. When the Trek Emonda first launched, it was a pure lightweight climbing focused bike with a super lightweight frame, one of the lightest production frames you could buy at the time. But for 2021, it's been given an aerodynamic makeover like we've seen with a specialized Tarmac SL7 and taken a big dose of influence from the company's aero bike, the Madone. This makes it a better all-rounder, no longer a pure climbing bike, a good all-rounder, good in the mountains as well, where low weight definitely helps you, but good on flatter, undulating roads where weight isn't always the main concern, where aerodynamics definitely help you out. It's still a lightweight frame with a top-end SLR version weighing just 700 grams for a frame, but the more affordable SL model is hobbled by a 1,142 gram frame weight, which is much heavier than the 850 to 900 grams that other rivals are offering for a similarly priced frame set. So you want the best option, you need to go to the SLR. The SL doesn't stack up so well on the scales. Like the Tarmac SL7, there is no rim brake option on the new Emonda, it's disc brakes only, but you do get wide tyre clearance as the benefit. There's also a threaded bottom bracket replacing the old creaky BB90, so hooray for that, and lots of other sensible details on the bike. Sadly, Trek won't send me an Emonda to review, but I have ridden the previous version and I'm very impressed with the climbing performance of the bike, the general responsiveness and the handling. So the aero makeover of this new bike should move it into line with the Tarmac SL7 and get you a bit of that performance from the Madone, which I have ridden, and that's a very, very fast bike. So a good package if you want a reasonably low weight frame, if you can afford the SLR at the top and decent aero. From Canyon is the Ultimate, which is available in 3 carbon versions. Now the Ultimate is probably the oldest bike in the video here and it's starting to show its age. It was first launched in 2015 and given a disc brake update in 2017, and apart from new paint jobs and specification changes, it hasn't really changed that much since. It still looks good though, it still looks modern and contemporary, but it's lagging behind in some places compared to other rivals in this video. What you do get from Canyon though is excellent value for money, and they're really good with choosing good components. From the group set to the wheels and tyres, there's rarely any skimping on a Canyon bike. Where some brands might skimp on the wheels and tyres, that's never the case with Canyon. You also get one-piece carbon handlebars and stems on most bikes in the range, which is a nice detail, but you don't get a full internal cable routing like you do on a specialized Tarmac SL7 or Colnago V3RS. It's a very lightweight frame if you go for the brand new CFR version, which uses a fancy Japanese carbon fibre and a claimed frame weight of 641 grams, making one of the lightest frames in this video. The Ultimate is still a good riding bike with good handling, good performance, probably not quite as sharp and fast as some of its more modern rivals, but still a good choice, but hopefully there's a new one around the corner. But if you're looking to buy a bike and Canyon is on your shortlist, don't be put off by its age right now. From Scott is the Addict, and the Addict has been around for a long time. In the olden days, it was a super lightweight, super stiff race bike, and now it's lightweight, super stiff, and also very aero, with a clear aero influence, bringing it into line with the Tarmac SL7 and Colnago V3RS. So again, a lightweight, very stiff bike, but also a big heavy dose of aero, making it a good all-rounder. Good for climbing, good for descending, good for rolling roads, and makes that choice of bike much easier. You're not getting the full aero benefit of the foil, but you're getting most of it, and for many people that's probably enough, along with the increased comfort and lower weight you get from this bike versus something like the foil. Helping the aero on the Addict is a full internal cable routing front end solution with a one-piece carbon handlebar on the top end models and a two-piece version on the lower end models, with cables and hoses going over the top of the stem and into the steer tube, just to keep the front end nice and clean. There's lots of sensible details and very unique details on the Addict, like the front brake mount goes into the front of the fork with a removable cover, it's a very cool feature. A very tiny minimalist external seat clamp, and it's a really neat hollow carbon fibre rear dropout. So Scott always has a knack for just really pushing the engineering on the bikes, and the Addict is no exception. The bike is disc brake only, like most other bikes in this video, and designed around a 28mm wide tyre on a wide internal 21mm rim. So really a modern bike designed for the modern wheel and tyre trends. It's a bike I've ridden, and you might see my review, link above if you missed it, and it is a bike that lives up to its looks. Really fast, really responsive, very stiff as well. Probably not the smoothest operator here if your roads are very crumbly and rough. There are smoother riding bikes, even with wide 28mm wide tyres, but a good road race bike, a good performance focused bike, and some lovely detailed and full integration on this one, even at the lower end. The BMC Teammachine is a bike I have to admit I've always liked. I've ridden quite a few over the years as it's evolved, and it's always offered a great blend of stiffness, comfort and handling, and very distinctive looks. Now, I'm not here to judge on looks, that's your own personal preference, but I've always loved the look of BMC bikes. In the old days, it had a very angular, very distinctive look, and while that has been softened over the years, the latest version of Teammachine is still a distinctive bike that stands out in quite a crowded marketplace. BMC is comparable to Scott in employing some very clever and unique engineering and design features on a bike which you won't see on other platforms. So we have this very angular frame design language, which now begin an aero makeover. Not quite as clear as say the Scott foil or the special Tarmac SL7, but definitely more aero than the one that came before it, and you really feel that on the road. It's definitely a faster feeling bike than the old model, not by a huge margin, but you can definitely feel extra speed when you really get to higher speeds. Despite the changes, it's still a lightweight bike with a claimed 820 gram frame weight, so making a sub 7 kilo build in that top end spec easily possible. Now, while the top end models get a really cool looking one piece carbon fiber handlebar and stem with all the cables and hoses inside for clean lines and minimal drag, unfortunately the lower end models get a two piece more conventional bar and stem with the cables externally routed. And it's reasonably neat, but compared to what Specialized will offer you and other brands will offer you at the same price point, it's a shame not to see that full internal cable routing solution on the lower end models. But out on the road, the new Teammachine lives up to the heady expectations set by the previous models with a very fast, great handling bike, fairly neutral in its balance, and surprising comfort for a bike designed to be stiff and aero. So a good contender and a very distinctive looking bike, and a bike that does well in the pro peloton. The Bianchi Specialissima is probably one of the best looking bikes here, so buying on looks alone, this should definitely be on your shortlist for sure. But thankfully, the bike is so much better than the looks alone, with very impressive performance and very impressive technical engineering on this platform. The Specialissima was first launched as a sort of classic looking, traditional designed, but super lightweight frame. This second version has gone aero, and you see the clear aero influence in the fork blades, the head tube, the down tube, the seat tube and seat post. And we have full internal cable routing on the handlebar and stem, so clean lines and minimal drag. The new version is disc brake only as well, whereas the old version was rim or disc brake, which I know is a concern for some people, but for me personally, you know my stance on disc brakes is not a problem. You get really nifty through axles with the levers hidden inside the axle, so no tools needed, and it works really well. And easily the most interesting and unique feature on the Specialissima, which really sets it apart from the competition, is countervail. Now, this is a technology that Bianchi has used on its road race bikes for quite a few years now, and something they're guarded about the secrets on, but essentially they add a special material to the carbon fiber lap which helps to dampen the vibrations that come through the frame. So when you ride along a rough road, all the vibrations that come through the tires, the wheels, the fork and the frame to your contact points are dampened by countervail technology. And it might sound like a gimmick, but it really does work. This bike provides a buttery smooth ride, a magic carpet ride on the roughest of roads, which belies the fact it only has 25mm wide tyres on the 100 road, but there is space for 28mm wide tyres. But countervail means you don't have to go wider for more comfort. So a bike with supreme smoothness. Thankfully, that countervail tech doesn't add to the weight, with a frame weighing a claimed 750 grams, which means in a top end build, you're easily looking at sub 7 kilos. Although, choose a top end build and you will have to pay handsomely for it, for it isn't the cheapest bike in the video by any stretch of the imagination. But if you can afford it, you won't be disappointed. And you want to find out more, you can see my review linked above. The Cannondale SuperSix Evo has long been an easy choice if you want a lightweight, fast performance road race bike. The previous generation, before this facelift, was one of the best, most highly regarded race bikes. Super lightweight, super stiff, pretty good comfort and great handling. Really good neutral, balanced handling from the SuperSix Evo geometry. The new version, launched a couple of years ago, gave it a major update. Departed from the classic looks of the old bike with a more modern look. So aero tube profiles, drop rear stays and fully internal cable routing on the front end on the top end builds. Personally, it doesn't look as good as the old bikes, but it is more comparable to the other rivals in this space like the Tarmac SL7 and the Colnago V3RS for example. And you get all the aero benefits from the System 6, the aero bike, in a package that is still lightweight but still offers the same handling performance of the old Super 6. The only downside of the Cannondale, much like Specialized, is the value for money isn't always the best, and things like wheels and tyres are often skimped compared to brands like Canyon who don't skimp on wheels and tyres, so that's definitely a factor to bear in mind. The Pinarello Dogma F was launched just before the Tour de France and is the latest in a long line of Dogma race bikes from an Italian bike company, and followed the F12, the F10 and the F8. And it's the F8 that really set the blueprint, the DNA for the current Dogma F. Now, if you want to see the evolution of the Dogma line, then make sure you click on my video linked above, where I went to a deep dive on how Pinarello Dogma has evolved from the very early days to the current latest generation Dogma F. So new Dogma F is, as you guessed, more aero, more stiffness, and the same weight actually. The frame weight is about 850 grams because the company doesn't chase weight. Instead, it's found weight saving in the headset, the fork, and the seat clamp. So 3D printed seat clamp, which saves a bit of weight over the previous version. So frame same weight, but all the bits that bolt onto it are a bit lighter. And like the Colnago V3RS, this bike is available with disc brakes or rim brakes. And we've seen Team Ineos Grenadier sticking with rim brakes, but if you're modern and you like disc brakes, you can have it with disc brakes, that's all cool. Unfortunately, just like the Bianchi Specialissima, the Pinarello Dogma F is far from the most affordable bike in this video, with frame sets on their own starting at £5,500. Ouch, definitely an expensive bike. You definitely need deep pockets if you want this bike. So there we go then, 10 bikes as seen and raced in this year's Tour de France, but which you can buy at a range of price points. And don't forget, I'll put some links down below to some bikes that I recommend that offer really good value for money, with pics of the range from each bike manufacturer. And do let me know which of these bikes you would buy if you had the money, or which you're considering buying this year, or let me know which bikes I've missed and you think I should have included in this video. But that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you all again next time. Thank you so much for watching.